this first period on the whole Davante Adams thing? How did that first come about? All the first talking points and the origin of
the Dave talks to all the teams, and I think you have, you just kind of want to make sure you have a relationship with everybody, and kind of, if there's anything like that that's out there, you just try to see if there's opportunities to improve your team. I don't know exactly the day or anything like that, but when it became apparent that they were going to think about doing something like that, then you have to start doing your work and, really, diving into the process of researching, the player's fit, and anything that you can to try to figure out if it's something that would make your team better. And then that's a different process, which involves a lot of different layers and research, phone calls, tape evaluation, contacts, and, hopefully when you're making a decision that's, of that magnitude, that, you cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And with Davante, we just felt like this is the kind of a player that you would consider doing this for. And, he's certainly been a great football player. And after having the opportunity to meet him, and spend some time with him the other day, everything that we had heard, everything that we were told, all the different recommendations and all the different things that we heard about him as a person, those were true too. And so feel really comfortable about the decision that we made, and really good about the player and the person that we've added to our team.
When Devante says, hey, I've already talked to Derek Carr about don't feel obligated to throw me the ball all the time. From a coach's perspective, how pleasing is that when a guy of that stature lets everyone else know it's not about numbers, it's about wins, and hopefully that kind of filters throughout the rest of the locker room?
I think that says a lot about him. He's unselfish. And at the end of the day, I think you're talking about two really mature guys. And look, if you want to win, and you want to win playoff games, and you want to compete to do the things that we want to do in our organization, and those players want to do themselves as teammates, those are the things you have to do. There's really no choice about this. I mean, you can't just, be hard-headed and start throwing it to one person and all that stuff. That'll never work. I don't care who the two people are. I've been fortunate to coach some different combinations of those kind of players, and the right thing to do is always what's best for the team. And I think those two guys understand that, and the fact that they have a great attitude about it, I think is really helpful for everybody else.
How key then, Josh, was that relationship between Davante and Derek going back to college for this thing to really happen?
It's hard for me to say because, when we were made aware that they would possibly move him, it really, at that point, it really wasn't about a relationship that they had. I knew I was aware of it and certainly am aware of it, but I don't think that really had much to do with our interest in terms of we were looking at it from a football perspective, does this make sense? Certainly their relationship for them, it clearly made a lot of sense for them, to want to do that. But I'm sure there's probably a lot of players that have played with other guys that want to have a chance to play together, and maybe they don't ever get the chance to do so. So we were looking at it from a football perspective, from the Raiders' perspective. Does this make us a better football team? Does what we have to give up, is it equivalent to the player we think we're getting back in return? Those are hard decisions, and so we were looking at it more from that perspective. Really, on a personal note, happy for those two guys. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that get to do that, and so I'm excited for those two guys personally, because I know that they have an affection for one another as people and families and those kind of things that runs a lot deeper than football. So it'll be fun to watch those two guys together.
How does this move make you guys very competitive?
I think we added a good football player, and so anytime you can add a good football player, I think that helps your team. Certainly you have to give up something. So, anytime you do something like this, there's a give and a take. There's times where, you're willing to do it and times where you're not. And so we just felt like the investment at this point would be worth it for us. And, hopefully we can make the most out of this opportunity.
You guys have checked off a lot of boxes, running back, wide receiver, D-line, across the board. Offensive line, it's been a little bit kind of methodical maybe, I guess. Do you feel like the answers are there on the roster, or is that something that you still have to address?
I think you try to do what you feel like is best to improve every area of your football team. And I know that there was some things in free agency where, you're going into it saying, okay, let's take a look at all these different areas. And sometimes it just doesn't really fall within your range, or, it kind of gets to a point where you don't feel comfortable doing it. I know we had some interest in some people to try to improve the overall group, the depth and the competition of the group. I think we have a lot of players there that are not at their ceiling yet, and I think our job as coaches will always be to try to maximize the players that we have. So there's a lot of ways to improve. You can add players, you can improve them, and so we're going to take every avenue we can to try to do that. We still have the draft, we still have post-draft, we still have June, we still have August. There's a lot of different avenues to do that, but I'd say I feel pretty good about the group that we have, and now it's, our job in the short term here is to try to coach them, get them to play better, each group, each man to play better, and that's what we'll focus on.
Chandler Jones bring to the locker room as a player, how excited are you to work with him?
Yeah, I've known Chandler for a long time, and so Chandler's a really good guy, and he's obviously a great football player, and he has an infectious personality. He practices like that. He comes to work with a smile on his face. He's an easy guy to like, and so I think that his teammates will embrace him quickly, I'm sure, and he'll reciprocate that with what he does for them in practice and hopefully on the game field.
Josh, you mentioned
How are you?
good to see you.
Good to see you.
When you're talking about give up stuff to get Devante, how much has the wide receiver market changed over the last couple of years with the calculus picks you need to give up and then the contract, because you're not the only ones.
Yeah. I'd say, it seems like it's changing. I don't know if it's totally done changing or not, but I think people are valuing those kind of players a little differently now maybe than what they were, years ago. I think a lot of it is what you think that the player is going to do for your team. If you feel like this player is really going to dictate a lot of stuff that you're getting defensively and how you're being defended, and that you can use that to your advantage, I think you have to make a decision on how much you're willing to pay for that, because it seems like the price keeps going up. You can certainly take the other route and try to, find them in the draft and develop them and those types of things, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've done that where I've been before. You have to make a decision on where you're going to put your, let's say your top dollars, and it seems like that position is certainly kind of growing on the league.
Speaking of which, the quarterback market continues to financially grow and grow and grow again. You guys have talked about Derek and seeing where all the pieces fit. Is part of that financial, or is actual fit on the team with what you guys are doing?
Can you say it one more time?
In terms of the quarterback market and how high it's going, when you talk about Derek Carr and seeing where all the pieces fit, are you talking about where it fits financially, or him as a player on this team? Where are you guys going to be?
I mean, I feel Derek's fit on the team is as a player is obviously, what we're looking for and what we want to try to build around. I mean, our relationship continues to grow personally. We won't be able to do anything on the field here for a little bit, but that'll be a process. And I think ultimately, you try to do what's best for the team, and I think both sides got to do what's best for, when we get into those conversations with Derek, Derek's going to have to make decisions about what's best for him. That's what each man's right is, and they should do that for their families. And at the same time, we got to try to do what's right for the team. And there'll be a sweet spot in there, hopefully, for everybody, and we'll be excited to go forward like that.
Do you see addressing the O-line or so big need? Are you happy with the guys you have right now?
Say it one more time.
Do you see addressing the O-line as a big need? Are you okay with the guys you have right now?
I think you can't. Again, our job is now going to be to work like hell to improve the guys we have. If we can improve any position on the team, we'll do so. But we certainly don't want to go out there and just, you draft for need or you sign for need. I mean, if you make mistakes, you don't really make yourself better. You know what I mean? So if there's a good fit at any position, offensive line, defensive line, corner, receiver, tight end, whatever it is, we'll try to make the team better in any way that we can. The guys we have on the roster right now are competitive, and we're going to try to coach them and improve them, and that's our job. If we can't make the players on our team better, then we got to do something different. So we feel like that's a big role that we got to play, and we're excited to get that part started here in April.
Outside Parker and Eleanor, what do you see those guys? What do those guys bring to the mix?
Yeah, I think, look, both of them played. I know Jermaine from New England, and he played some football last year here, and then obviously Parker played a lot of football here. So, guys that, have a lot of snaps in games, have some flexibility from a position standpoint, which I think is really important when you're putting that group together. You can't just put a bunch of one-trick ponies together. So Parker, can he swing? Yes. Jermaine has guard tackle flexibility. You never know in this day and age, what you're going to need, and you certainly can't go in there with a bunch of one-position players. So the versatility and flexibility that they offer you and that we're going to try to create in the offensive line room is important, and those two guys are two good examples of that.
How key then is Alex Leatherwood and what he does, whether he's out at tackle or how key is he to that whole?
He's an important part of it. Had great conversations with Alex so far. He's excited. Played a lot of football as a rookie, and everybody's, he played a lot of football. That counts for something, you know what I mean? And you can say, was it this or that? I know this, his second year is going to feel like his second year, not his rookie year. Because he was in there a lot. He played a lot of snaps. He played tackle. He played guard. And we're going to try to give him an opportunity to earn a role that's his best fit, and it's the best fit for the Raiders. And look, we know what he was drafted for, and we're going to give him an opportunity to do such. But ultimately, what we want to do at the end of the day is we're going to put the best 5 guys out there. The best 5 guys we can put out there to protect the quarterback and run the football and be physical. That's what we're going to try to do. Say it one more time. You're talking about with Indy? Yeah.
Why do you think that's so uncommon?
I think it kind of has to fit together, relatively speaking. I think it has to, the value that you see in one player versus another, there's a contractual element to it also. For us, it kind of was a two-step process. Chandler Jones, Yannick, then we had an opportunity to add Rock. So there was multiple factors into it. I think if you take if you look at that just on the surface and say one for one, one guy's contract was at a different place than another. So there was a lot of elements to that one that kind of made it work for us and for them. But it's not easy to find that, where everybody feels like, oh yeah, it's totally equal, let's just do this. That's why I think it's a little difficult to see that happen more in the NFL. I'm going to stand up here. Sorry, you're good. No leg room.
Were there talks between the team and Stephon Gilmore, and how viable were those talks themselves?
We talk to every agent. Dave does that, and his group does that, but there's been nothing substantial in that regard.
Is he a player that you guys are trying to seek to help with the secondary to bring in? Is that somebody?
I have a lot of respect for Steph. what he's done in his career. Certainly, we would look at anything at any position if we thought it would help us. Obviously, it's got to fit, on both ends.
Josh, for you. When you added Devante, what does that do for Waller and Renfro in terms of supervise schematic?
Yeah, I think when you put guys together on the same group, and you can put them on opposite sides of the ball, the defense has to make some choices, and who they're going to single, who they may try to roll to, how they're going to cover everybody, and ultimately, if you've got enough talented guys out there, and you let the coverage dictate where you're going to go with the ball, hopefully you have a matchup that's in your favor. We'll see. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of building and progressing to happen here as we go, but we like the idea of what we have, but ideas are just what they are on paper. Until we start to see them, happen on the field consistently, and we can handle a lot of different things, there's a lot of fundamental work that's going to need to be done for us to realize whatever potential we may have. He's still in the AFC. He's a great player, and he makes you have to defend him on every play. And so there's only a handful of guys like that in the league. He's a special player. We've played against him a lot, and he's done a lot of great things in our league. So the Chiefs are great, not just because of one player. They got a lot of great players, and they got a great coaching staff and a great culture and a great organization. They're going to be an incredible challenge for us this year. And look, they got a lot of capital in the draft, and they're not done building their team like we're not done building ours. So we'll look forward to the challenge. But again, they're a lot more than one man.
So many.
There's a lot of things that have stood out about Russell. I'd say he's a great competitor. He's always out there. You can start with that, which there's a lot of guys that have trouble staying out there on the field as much as Russell has. But for as much as he's done and with his legs and all the extending plays, his body's been pretty durable. It's hard to count Russell out of anything. He throws a great deep ball. He's got great command of the offense. He's hard to tackle and get down in the pocket, out of the pocket. And he just, you never feel like you really got a comfortable lead with Russell on the other sideline. So that's a huge addition for the Broncos, and it'll be a big challenge for us this year.
When you guys decided to trade Unique, was Rock Yassin something that you guys had a clear eye on in terms of getting something back?
Well, we just tried to improve a position on our team where we at the time we didn't have a ton of depth, and Rock's obviously been a guy that he's had a productive 3 years. Had some ups and downs like most players do, but certainly has an opportunity to improve and help us in that position, and we're looking forward to working with him now.
Coach, so many ex-Patriots on the coaching staff and on the roster. What do you make of a Patriots West moniker? Are you worried about that at all?
We have a few coaches that I've worked with before, and a few guys that have been in New England. But this is all about what the Raiders are going to do. We're gonna create our own culture, and the culture is going to be determined by the players, the people in the building, the standard that Mr. Davis has set, and the accountability that we all have to it. So we're excited to work on that. It's a process, but we got a lot of great people in the building, starting with the people that were there long before I got there. And so I'm really excited to join in that culture and try to further it as we go.
That being said, how excited are you to work with the familiar faces in Brandon Bolden and Allen Johnson?
Yeah. Look, the opportunities that we had to add a few players that you have some familiarity with, that never hurts. The coaching staff is another big thing. When you have the opportunity to do that, and when I went to Denver, I really didn't have an opportunity to bring people that had worked with me before. I'd only been in the league for 8 years, so I didn't have as much experience and as many connections as I do at this point, and it's a blessing that we have an opportunity to work together. Some of us that have had those relationships, you just hit the ground running a little quicker when you have the opportunity to do that, and those guys have done a great job. I'm really pleased with our staff, the way they're working, their mindset, their attitude, their work ethic has been tremendous so far this spring, and I give them a lot of credit for the time they're spending at the facility. It's tireless. I mean, most of our families aren't out there yet, so this is we go from the end of one season and just work all day, all night now. So really, really enjoy being around this group of guys.
Coach,
I've never really given it a whole lot of thought. If they ever did that, obviously that would flip some things around for you. But I've never really considered it much because I don't know that they'll ever do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's something that I probably would have to see it change before I would give it a whole lot of thought.
So there've been a lot of moves, some of the signings, trades this offseason like never before. You guys have been a part of that. Is it time being in a win now mode?
Say it again.
Is it time being in a win now mode with so many moves we've never seen before, trades this offseason?
I don't know. I think everybody's just trying to do what they think is best for their team. You take advantage of opportunities that you think can make your team better, and we've tried to do such. I know other teams have done the same thing. Look, if you're not trying to win, I don't know what you're doing at this point. I think we're all in that mode of trying to do what's best for our football team so we can compete and win as many games as possible. That's what they pay us to do. So we're going to try to do that. I know every other team in the league and the conference is going to do the same thing, and as many ways as you can improve your team, that's what you're going to try to do.
That being said, is it surprising how many moves have been made in the AFC West?
No, I guess not surprising. It just seems like you wake up and every other day there's something exciting happening in the AFC West. I guess I think it's great. I think it's great for football. I know we're super excited to have the opportunity to compete in this division. There's some great teams, some great players, some great coaches, and they're all trying to get better, and so no 2 years are the same. So 2022, we'll see what comes of 2022, but I know we're all competing hard to try to make our teams the best we can make them. Yeah, hopefully it will show itself. I'm excited for him to build that kind of chemistry with all of our skill players as the quarterback. But certainly he and Devante have a relationship that'll be important to their growth, and I think them being unselfish and willing to kind of really spread that relationship amongst their teammates is going to be important for us.
How important was it, Josh, to lock up Maxx Crosby on the defensive side with that extension?
I think it's important. It's an important position. Certainly, if you can score or affect the quarterback on defense, those are two really important things to every football team, and obviously Maxx can do that. He can affect the quarterback on the other team. The other thing I love about Maxx Crosby is, he's in the building first every day. I'm not sure I know anybody that works any harder at his craft than he does. He's unselfish. He's got a great team first attitude. He's a great example for what you want in a football player. And so to reward people that do those kind of things you never regret those things, you know, and it's exciting for our team and our organization to have an opportunity to watch him grow into the person and player that he's become, and then, you know, we're all going to be witness to it going forward.
Nate Hobbs had a great rookie year playing as a slot. Is that where you pretty much envision him, or is there a possibility?
There'll be an opportunity for Nate to compete at all those spots. We've talked about that already, and Nate's a very competitive guy, got a good skill set. We're excited to work with him for sure.
When you were building your staff, at what point did Patrick Graham come in your head, and what is it about him that you wanted to bring him in? I know you had a relationship before, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been fond of Patrick. He's a great coach, and he's a great person. So, you know, when you're thinking about doing these kind of things and having an opportunity, if it was presented, you always have to be mindful of who you may be able to add to your staff and surround yourself with, and you want to put as many good people and good coaches around you as you can. And you know, Patrick's at the top of that list in both categories. He's done a lot of great things. I'm excited to work with him. I'm excited to learn from him. And he's already doing a great job with our defensive staff right now.
Josh, congrats on getting another chance.
Thank you.
And against the Broncos' big rival. What do you think about that? Coming back into coaching, and you know the Broncos just didn't work out the first time.
Yep.
Now taking them out a couple times here.
Yeah, you know, look, I've learned a lot from my experience there, and since then, I have a little familiarity with the AFC West, and now excited to be back in a very competitive division. Certainly, they just added a player in Russell Wilson that has been a great player for a long time, and you know, I know the standard and the expectations in Denver are to win and win a lot and win championships, and we're going to try to do the same thing here. I know that's what Mr. Davis has made clear. That's our commitment. So it'll be exciting to have the opportunity to coach against them and the Chiefs and the Chargers, and you know, we've got a hell of a division here.
What do you think about kind of the arms race going on in the AFC West? Quarterbacks, receivers, the passing game being so big.
Yeah, you know, I think each team's trying to do what they think is necessary to improve their team. You know, and you know, none of this stuff really matters unless you can get it all to work the right way when you get on the field. So I think there's been a lot of transactions, and there's been a lot of changes, and now there's going to be a lot of work that needs to take place between now and September, and between September and the end of the season. There's a lot of building, there's a lot of improvement that we certainly have to make on our football team, and that's where the focus is probably going to lie for most of us coaches at this point, is not just staring at the piece of paper and feeling really good about the names that are on it, but all right, now it's time to go to work and see what we can make of this group. So eager to do that in Vegas, as I'm sure everybody else is as well.
Josh, what do you think before those bigger transactions have happened in the last couple weeks and all those blockbuster deals? Do you think teams are more comfortable with that now than maybe?
I don't know. I've thought about that. You know, somebody suggested, is it some of the youth in some of the general manager positions? And I mean, I don't really know. I think that, you know, whenever a good player is accessible somehow, some way, I think you always kind of turn over every stone and see, you know, is it something you'd be interested in doing for your team? For us, it happened that we felt like it was in our case, but you know, there's a lot of other opportunities out there that maybe you don't do. I think they've always been out there. It's just have people been willing to go that route and make the commitment, you know, from a draft pick perspective or financial commitment to add those players on their team. So I don't think it's a coincidence, but I do think it's a trend.
Josh, that's like untouchable players now, like 10 years ago.
I don't know.
Be delving out the salary cap.
I think people have to make hard decisions. You know, I mean, look, you know, you can pay a certain number of people, but you can't pay everybody at the same level, and so people try to do what they think is in their best interest, and and again, there's going to be more tough decisions ahead for everybody.
Josh, the additions that you guys made in the running back room, adding to Josh and Kenyon, is that just kind of covering all your bases in terms of the various skill sets, the speed, catching out of the backfield?
That's a position that's hard to stay healthy. It just is. They touch the ball more than everybody but the quarterback, and they get hit more than anybody. And so, we have a couple guys that are rehabbing now. And so to have depth in that room is important, because if you don't have quality depth in a running back room today in the NFL, a lot of times you're going to run into some issues and some injuries, and then you get caught trying to make a quick transaction during the middle of the season. So we've always tried to have as much depth in that room as we can. I think it's a position it's really critical to have good players, but it's also really critical to have good depth that you can plug in there, and they can serve a lot of roles.
Josh, I was fortunate to cover Devante in Green Bay the last 8 years. It's obviously a lot of fun to watch. What does he give your offense now?
He's been a premier player for a long time, and I really, I have a great deal of respect for him as a player. What he's been able to accomplish. He's very versatile. He's aggressive. He's physical. He wins on third down. He wins in the red zone. He can handle himself against man coverage. He has great savvy and awareness versus zone. He's a very well-rounded player, and he deserves the credit, as well as the people that have coached him in Green Bay. Certainly they've done a great job with him, and he's a really, really hard worker. And getting to meet him last week and really sit down and talk with him, it's easy to see why this guy has been successful. He's very driven, he's mature, he's intelligent, and he knows what it takes to work hard and be productive at his position in this league, and we're really thankful to have him.
When you find out that was a possibility, and what, as an offensive guy like yourself, when you hear that's a possibility, what goes through your mind?
I don't know exactly the day or the time or what have you, but I know Dave, at this time of the year, you're in contact with almost every team, and you're trying to see what's out there, what's available. And so when I was made aware of it, look, he's a great player, and then you start doing some research on, all the other stuff, that you don't know, the people that he's worked with, the coaches that have coached him, the players that have played with him, the people that have competed against him. How does he practice? What are his off-season routines? What's his family situation like? And when you do that with Devante, you get a lot of great qualities and great recommendations, and a lot of people that are willing to stand out and say, this guy's really an A1 human being, individual, and football player. And so, when you do that and you hear those things as a coach, you feel great about the opportunity if it can actually become real. And then ultimately, we were able to work it out with them, and again, thankful that he's part of our team.
How'd you celebrate when he arrived? It was official. How'd you celebrate?
I don't know if we did anything crazy. I mean, Dave and I maybe a little fist bump, and then try to move on and keep working and continue to try to build our football team.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Can you tolerate a Patriots question about Maxx Jones?
Sure.
What would you foresee this year to being like? Obviously, he's losing an important guy, and quarterback's coach Bo, but he's very ahead of the curve in terms of mentally. What do you envision for him in the second year?
I would be surprised. Again, I don't want to place unrealistic expectations on somebody on a different team, but knowing Mac the way that I did last year, I would be surprised if Mac doesn't have a tremendous routine right now, and he's not attacking every single thing that he felt like he wanted to get better at from the off-season study, from the self-scout. There's probably a lot of areas where he's targeting and saying, hey, I'm going to be better at those things this year. And look, with the rules such as they are now, we can't work with them anyway, until we get to late April and into May, and then you get a handful of weeks to work with them, and then they're off on their own again. So I think the way that the rules are, you got to do a lot of work on your own anyway. And so I think for a lot of young players, if you can digest that and understand that, listen, I have a lot of responsibility to improve myself. I can't just wait for somebody else to do it. I think that's a big thing, and I'm sure Mac is doing that as we speak.
Chandler Jones had a long run of success. What's been the key to that in your eyes? You know him pretty well. You've seen him over the years, but Chandler.
Chandler's a really unique pass rusher. He's got this long, levered body that it's really hard to hit. And he's got a lot of different pass rush moves. He's got a great feel for the different people that are protecting. And he's been able to play a lot of different spots across the front. He's rushed inside, he's rushed outside, he's rushed on the right, he's rushed on the left. And he's a very slick guy in terms of using his frame. He's very long, he's got long arms, and he's hard to get a big hit on, which I like because the more contact you get on some of those guys, the more physical toll it takes on their bodies. And so Chandler, I know he's into his 30s, but I see Chandler as a guy who's still playing at a really high level, and he's playing at that level on all 3 downs, which I love. Not surprised. Again, whatever he chooses to do, he deserves, the opportunity to pick and choose what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. I just think I see a guy that's playing at an extremely high level, super competitive, and at this age, nobody's really done this before. And so to see him playing at that level and walk away, I think all of us would have been a little sad next year on opening day had that been the case. But knowing him like I do, how competitive he is, if he can still do it at a high level and he can still compete to win championships, it doesn't shock me that he came back.
Now, you were talking about those off-season rules in regards to that. How prohibitive are they, and how would those impact, if at all, teams' decisions on rookie quarterbacks, whether to play them immediately versus letting them sit a little bit?
I think each decision's got to be made on its own. It depends on the player's readiness. If you play him, it should be because he's ready to go in there and protect himself and give the team an opportunity to win. The rookies that are drafted this year, there's really not a lot of restrictions on them. I mean, we have rules, obviously, but once they are drafted, we spend a lot of time with those guys. It's really, the off season, the next year, from the end of the season until you can start again in May, there's quite a bit of time where you really can't do much from a football perspective with them. So that's an important phase for all of them. They're going to have to, like I said, learn how to work on their own, learn how to try to start to make some progress on their own after their first season without the coaches being present every day. Thanks a lot, guys.